My overconfident self landed in Denver from sea level, and I picked hiking the Quandary Peak on the very next day, mainly because I passed the trailhead while driving to look for an easy acclimatization hike. I told my friends I'd be back in a couple of hours. Now, Quandary Peak is a modest 6.5-mile round trip with over 3,300 feet of elevation gain, and I was supremely confident that it would be a stroll in the park. And why not? I had conquered the steep driveway of my home 3 times in a row on foot as practice. The adventure started from a parking lot about 15 minutes from Breckenridge, which was our base camp. I had to pay a $30 tribute for the parking to be paid online, but apparently there is a shuttle as well. Yet again, I failed to read the all trails description before the hike, so please do not ignore that. A brief walk along the service road led me to the trailhead on the left side of the road, which I initially missed and ended up adding an extra half a mile to my hike. The ascent began without a preamble, and the trail had climbed almost 700 feet in the first mile. I wasn't ready for that and felt a little out of breath, but blamed that on starting without my warm-up routine. They had tried to scare me with the stories about how hard the climb is at that altitude and how altitude sickness can impact anyone without proper acclimatization. But I do not trust the mainstream media after COVID. I have started to question everything and I get my info from the experts at 4chan and Twitter. Sorry, X. So unfettered, I trudged along. As the trees started to thin out after 12,000 feet, it started revealing the vistas which would have taken my breath away if I had any left. The path was now getting steeper and strewn with rocks as I climbed another 1,200 feet in the next mile. Bidding farewell to the tree line, I trudged along a rocky spine towards the summit. I came across a welcoming group of mountain goats and stopped to take some pictures. The goats seemed mildly amused at encountering yet another out of breath, out of place dimwit. By now, I was a mere 0.7 miles from the summit. Not far away, but that last half mile or so made me question my life's choices as I ascended over 1,000 feet in a very short distance. I'm sure it was more like 5,000 feet of climbing, and I'm pretty sure that the altitude scales and measures do not work properly at that altitude. I remember reading about that on Twitter. Sorry, X. The summit's conquest was slow but inevitable, and I was rewarded with 360 degrees views at the top. Felt a little lightheaded as I was over 14,000 feet, but blamed that on not having a good breakfast. Since it was late afternoon, I made a hasty retreat by retracing my steps back. Peaks that high are notorious for afternoon thunderstorms, which arrive out of thin air, literally. Getting electrocuted wasn't on my to-do list for the day. I made it back in time for the evening tea with my buddies at Breckenridge, who were starting to get worried about me, but were probably thrilled at the prospect of having an extra room at the Airbnb. While the day did not exactly go as planned, I had learned my lessons, and I was infinitely more experienced with 14ers than before, as this was my first one, and was totally ready to take on Mount Massive 2 days later.